For 17 years, he ran a fund that never lost money. Not in bull markets, not in bear markets, not during the dot-com crash, not during 9/11, not during any of the financial disasters that wiped out ordinary investors during that same stretch. Every single month, like clockwork, his clients received their statements, steady returns, reliable gains, perfect numbers, the kind that shouldn't exist. And when it finally collapsed, $65 billion vanished. Not stolen by a hacker, not lost in a bad trade, gone, because it was never there to begin with. This is the story of Bernie Madoff. And the reason it matters isn't just the money. It's what the story reveals about how power, trust, and prestige can be weaponized against the very people who believe in them the most. Let's rewind. Queens, New York, 1938. Born into a working-class family, in a neighborhood where ambition requires proof of concept, his parents had their own brush with securities regulators. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But he was different, sharp, patient, obsessed not just with money, but with respect. He started his career the old-fashioned way. In 1960, he scraped together $5,000, saved from lifeguarding and installing garden sprinklers, and founded his own investment firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his. In an era when Wall Street still ran on handshakes and paper, he embraced technology early. His firm helped build the infrastructure that would eventually become the NASDAQ. The same exchange he would chair 3 separate times. Let that sit for a second. The man who would eventually run the largest financial fraud in history once ran the institution designed to oversee the markets he was cheating. By the 1980s, he wasn't just respected, he was admired, sought after, consulted. And that credibility, built brick by brick over decades, became the weapon he would eventually turn against everyone who trusted him. At some point in the late 1980s, he simply stopped investing his clients' money. Not gradually, not strategically. He just stopped. No trades, no portfolio, no market exposure at all. Just a bank account, a team of accountants, and an enormous fabrication. Before we go further, let's understand exactly what a Ponzi scheme is. Because the mechanics are almost embarrassingly simple. Imagine you hand me $100 to invest. Instead of investing it, I hold on to it. Next month, I send you a statement showing you earned 10%. You're thrilled. You tell your neighbor. Your neighbor gives me $200. I use 10 of that to pay your returns. Both of you tell your friends. More money comes in. I use the newest money to pay the older clients. Around and around, every month, every year, until new money stops coming in. Then the whole thing collapses, like a building with no foundation. That's all it was. He just executed it at a scale nobody had ever attempted before. His operation had 2 distinct lives. Upstairs, the legitimate trading business. Real brokers, real trades, real clients. But downstairs on the 17th floor, something else entirely was happening. A separate staff, separate computers, separate phone lines, employees generating statements for accounts that held nothing but fiction. The returns he reported were never spectacular. That was deliberate. Around 10 to 12% annually, consistent regardless of what the market was doing, modest enough to seem realistic, steady enough to feel safe. I don't chase big numbers. I protect capital first. Growth comes second. And that restraint made people trust him completely. Here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. He didn't recruit clients. They came to him. He turned people away. If you wanted in, you needed a personal referral. You needed to be vetted. You needed to wait. And the waiting was part of the architecture of the lie. Being turned away made people want in more. Getting accepted felt like winning something. Once you were in, you told everyone you trusted, quietly, carefully, like sharing a secret that made you look smart. Country clubs became feeder networks, philanthropic circles funneled in millions, charities, foundations, hedge funds, and European banks all came. The social proof was overwhelming. If your accountant, your brother-in-law, your most financially savvy friend all invested with him, why would you question anything? But someone did, and nobody listened. A financial analyst became suspicious of the numbers in 1999. He sat with his team and tried to reverse engineer how those returns were mathematically possible. They couldn't. The strategy, he claimed, could not produce this consistency. Not in any market condition, not ever. He filed a formal complaint with regulators in 2000, then again in 2001, in 2005, in 2007. He submitted a report titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud. 29 Red Flags. Mathematical proof. Everything regulators would need." Regulators investigated. They visited the office, he charmed them, they left, satisfied. One investigator admitted she didn't understand the products involved. Another felt uncomfortable questioning someone of his stature. That's the system. The more powerful you are, the lighter the scrutiny gets. Set him aside for a moment. Look at who actually paid for 17 years of fiction. A Nobel Prize-winning Holocaust survivor. His foundation lost $15.2 million. He called him a thief, a scoundrel, a crook. Coming from a man who survived the worst atrocity in history, those words carried weight no courtroom sentence ever could. Famous actors and entertainers lost their entire life savings. A hospital lost tens of millions planned for patient care. But the stories that don't make headlines are the ones that define the damage. A retired school teacher who invested her entire life savings of $700,000 told investigators she would have to go back to work at 72. Not because she made reckless choices, because she trusted a man that every institution around her had also trusted. A charity serving Holocaust survivors lost its entire operating fund. The people who survived the worst atrocity in human history were now unable to access the support they had been promised. International banks compounded the destruction. Major European banks invested client money without properly vetting what was actually happening. When it collapsed, those losses moved across borders and continents. Claimed account values reached approximately $65 billion. The actual cash lost, real money, real people deposited, was approximately $17 billion. The rest existed only on fabricated statements. For the victims, that distinction meant nothing at all. For almost 2 decades, the machine kept running. He played the role with total commitment. The lunches, the charity galas, the regulatory meetings. Then came 2008. The financial crisis didn't just collapse markets, it collapsed the scheme from the inside. Clients panicked. They needed their money. Redemption requests totaled approximately $7 billion. The actual account held around $300 million. The math had caught up. After 17 years, the gap between what existed and what he had promised had finally grown too large. On December 9th, 2008, he called his 2 sons to his apartment. He needed to speak with them about the business. He sat them down, and then he told them the truth. The investment advisory business was a fraud. It had always been a fraud. It was, in his own words, one big lie. His sons walked out and called their lawyer. Their lawyer called the FBI. The next morning, federal agents arrived at his penthouse. "Is there anything you want to tell us?" "Yes, I know why you're here. I've been expecting you. I'm not going to make this difficult." He confessed immediately. No lawyer, no escape plan, no boat offshore with a new name waiting. Just a 70-year-old man in an apartment full of expensive furniture, telling the truth for maybe the first time in 2 decades. In March 2009, he stood before a federal judge and pled guilty to all 11 charges: wire fraud, securities fraud, mail fraud, investment advisor fraud, money laundering, perjury, false filings, all of it. The courtroom was packed with victims. They were permitted to speak. Some of them did. Stories of life savings gone, retirements erased, children's college funds that no longer existed, charities that had to shut their doors, one after another. He sat and listened. Mostly, he looked at the table. Then, the judge sentenced him to 150 years in federal prison. He was 71 years old. He was never getting out. His wife was stripped of most of her assets. She was allowed to keep $2.5 million. She moved to a small apartment in Connecticut. His eldest son took his own life on December 11, 2010, exactly 2 years after his father's arrest. He was 46. His younger son died of illness in 2014. The man himself died in federal prison in April 2021. He was 82. He had served 12 years of his 150-year sentence. He died of kidney disease. He was not surrounded by family. Here's what the story is really about. He did not operate in the shadows. He operated at the center of the most regulated, most surveilled, most documented financial system in the world. His name was on the door. He attended the conferences. He sat on the committees. He chaired the exchange. And for 17 years, the system looked directly at him and looked away. The whistleblower was ignored 5 times. Regulators left satisfied. Banks signed off without asking a single question. This wasn't a failure of intelligence. It was a failure of courage. Questioning him meant questioning the people who vouched for him. And those people were powerful, and powerful people don't get questioned. What made the scheme work wasn't the fake statements or the secret floor. What made it work was status, exclusivity, the human instinct to trust what the people around us trust, the assumption that someone who looks like a pillar of the establishment cannot possibly be rotten at the core. He is gone. But the conditions that created him, deference to prestige, regulatory timidity, social trust weaponized, those conditions are still very much in place. The next version of this story probably won't be called a fraud while it's happening. It'll be called an opportunity, an exclusive one that people beg to be part of. Sound familiar?